Okay. Hi, welcome to this episode. I have a friend here his name is Craig Thayer, and we call him Tank. I want to introduce him to you. I don't want to take too much time introducing him so that we can start right on here. Come on, Craig.
There you go. Hope you can see me okay.
Yeah, Craig is a neurosurgeon who has dyslexia. And as a child, he never knew he had dyslexia. And I think that's fascinating. He realized he had it when he saw his own son struggling with some of the reading challenges that he faced as a child. So how was that for a springboard into an introduction?
Would you? My life to get... Sorry, there's a background noise. Obviously, I've taken a lot of tests in my life, and the one pivotal one for me that at that point, because of my age, we didn't really know about dyslexia, was in third grade. So I'm in a dimly lit class, and they have a screen. They asked each student one by one to stand up in front of the class and read off that screen. And what they were doing was counting your words per minute that you could read.
Terrible.
And so there were like, I don't know, 5 or 6 students that were reading at incredible speed. And then finally I got up, sweating bullets, knowing I can't read that fast. So it got slower and slower.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
Obviously, class. By the next week, I was in the other third grade class. Yeah, by the end of that week, they moved me to the other third grade class because of my reading speed.
Isn't that something, the humiliation? You just think that someone's intuition would tell you, especially a teacher or a parent, not to have your child humiliated that way, right? Maybe some of these teachers just don't have that intuition, or
I think, and maybe they just didn't understand those things back then, because I think first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all those grades, they would write, Craig needs to read more. They just felt like I wasn't reading enough to be proficient at it. So, but yeah. I think it was more of a disability than it was truly my not reading more, because I think one of my favorite authors was Agatha Christie. So I loved all those murder mysteries, and I would read those, but it was slow, very slow.
Interesting. The other thing we hear a lot is someone's not trying hard enough, they're too lazy. And man, that's just so far from the truth, because the dyslexic child does try very hard and just feels defeated because they're not accomplishing the same goals that someone working that hard would be accomplishing.
Yeah, and I think what I found myself doing to compensate, because like you said, it makes you feel not great about yourself. I became the class clown, and because I was reasonably intelligent, I could be very witty. And even my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Hill, who was a Green Beret and had a bopper, one of those big long wooden pointers with a black tip on the end of it, who was named after the most thumped kid the year before, Benson Bopper. And I knew how many bops he had, so I went for the record for my class. And he made the mistake of sitting me right up at the front of the class, and so I was within reach all the time. It was easy to accomplish.
Isn't that something? So you compensated to entertain the class and to be the class clown, but it's interesting that that's actually a God-given talent you have, is to humor people anyway, right?
Right.
But yes, I know, because that came out on one of our TV shows that we're on together. We missed you last night.
Yeah, we missed you guys. It was Truth's 16th birthday, so
yeah, how cool is that?
Saw the new Harry Potter movie. So
okay. Well, I have another friend who was in the low 3rd grade reading class in 3rd grade, and they gave him an assessment, and they moved him to the lower grade, the lower reading level, and then he got another assessment, and he was put in the lowest reading level in 3rd grade. And the humiliation just hit him, like you said. And then someone gave him another test that was a gifted test, and he shot up to the top of the class, and a whole new program was started for kids like him. talented, creative?
I think, well, I mean, the incidence of dyslexia is reported to be more than being left-handed, which my oldest son is. Back in the day, they used to tape your left hand behind you, and it was like a crime, or you were punished for it, right? So, but I mean, you would think that they would learn, because if you, like Braden, we luckily recognized it early and got him trained in a way that he reads normal speed now, or pretty close to it, and he does fine. So if you catch these kids early and train their brain right, they function much more quickly. You know, your
So
cortex.
is he also a left-hander, you said?
No, my oldest is left-handed.
Okay.
But Braden's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I first started working with...
but another interesting thing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book, and he commented, there's a chapter on dyslexia in it. It's called the CRT test, which is my initials, interestingly. But and if you give it to MIT, which is IQ-wise the smartest, one of the smartest, obviously Caltech would probably argue otherwise, but they'll get probably about a 2.4 on that exam. So out of 3 questions, on average, they'll get 2.4 correct. And then say the next one down, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, they'll do like a 2.2. And then a more average college will be under 2. But if you change the font to small and you change it to an italicized font and you do a bunch of things to the actual being able to read it, that you have to slow down in order to understand what the actual words are saying, every single school scores like almost 0.2 to 0.3 higher on the exam. So I forget, the exam is a test of your comprehension and the speed at which you comprehend. And so the more you slow down and the more you concentrate, so actually having dyslexia in this case, because when I tested those kids on this exam, they score very high compared to the other students because they have to slow down to read what's being written in the exam itself. So it's actually a gift on that test, like you said.
Wow. You know, one of the things we're working on in this summer is a reading program that's going to allow the kids to design their own sentences, making the font larger and changing the color and spacing the words out as the way they want. Or so it's really different than real life, right? Yes. But it's an opportunity to play with words and play with reading. And we're going to have words on a carousel where the words will rotate if there's a certain kind of word. And then they're going to be on like flashcards, like with an arrow going to it. So we're having a bunch of different fun ways to read. So right. It's interesting that you're talking about the very specific reality that if a font is smaller and italicized, everybody would be on the same page to have to slow down and focus on right. what they're reading.
Right.
Dyslexic people would read better.
Right. Yeah, because even now when I take recertification exams or my continuing medical education requires that I take exams at the end of each course, I mean, I look at the time and I divide that by the number of questions and I figure out how many seconds I have per question so that I know I won't fall behind and not complete it. And I end up worrying about that more than I do the exam.
Yeah. I've heard of someone watching the person next to them take the test and how that really just intimidated them because they were so much slower at answering the questions.
Yeah, totally.
But
yeah, I got used to people getting up way before me. So
yeah,
it didn't bother me as much. I just worry about getting all the questions answered. So
well, and having those accommodations to have more time on the test, you never had those accommodations, did you?
Nope, never.
Yeah, fewer questions, more time for your testing. Talk about some of the victories you've seen with your son, though, with some of the,
Nice.
pardon me?
No, I didn't say it.
We have a little bit of a delay here, so
Yeah, sorry.
share some of the victories that you see in your son's life because he gets some of these accommodations and because you and Stephanie advocated for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he feels more confident in taking the exams. He's definitely a better reader. I've seen him, like in Bible studies, he's totally willing to read scripture, where I'm like, not panicked, but I'm embarrassed and break into a sweat. And I know I'm going to miss a line and skip something here or misread it, or yeah. So, but he's not. He's fine. He's great. He's great at reading and he goes through it, and I'm proud of him.
That's real sweet. I have an adult friend who's in his early 40s, and he wanted me to assess him for dyslexia. He was curious what reading level he was at and what his comprehension level was at. His reading was at a 3rd grade level, his comprehension at a 6th grade level. And what he really wanted to do was read his Bible. And he said, I just can't read my Bible. So I think that's great that your son's able to. What's your son's name? Braden, that he's able to read his Bible and good and
do it in front of people. So,
and what does he want to do? Does he have a career in mind? Does he want to be I'll talk to you a little bit later about you being a surgeon and how all that happened.
Yeah. No, that's okay. No, he has the world open to him because he's smart enough. He could go into science. He could do medicine. He's coordinated and an athlete. But he's also, like me, somewhat of an entertainer in the class. So he plays the guitar. So he could be an entertainer if he wanted to be. So he could do anything he wants.
Interesting. Not the entertainment of getting bopped on the head by the teacher.
It was entertaining the class.
Serious.
More entertaining when I got bopped, and it wasn't me that did it. So Mr. Hill was going to allow me to kick him in the rear end, and I declined. Said, okay, I just take that one away.
That's really sweet. So what is really impressive, I talk about the genius mind of the dyslexic child and how we need to unlock that genius mind, because like you said, once a kid starts reading, it opens up a world of opportunity to them. When did you know that you wanted to go into science and be a neurosurgeon?
Junior year in high school. So I took an anatomy physiology class, and that was it. The human body was amazing. It's physiology, and I also that year tutored some blind students. So I just knew I wanted to go into medicine because I liked helping people, and I like working with my hands. So the combo of those 3 things was I've got to be a surgeon. So, and actually, what I chose to do was general surgery with a trauma emphasis. So, but I do have to deal with neurosurgeons and neurosurgery because sometimes they're not there quickly.
So to get through, that's very impressive. And I know you give God the glory for your successes. Yes. You work awfully hard.
Yeah.
And for to get through those classes, did you have real good support groups? Because I know you didn't have accommodations in college, right?
Correct.
Because you didn't know you were dyslexic.
No, I would make sure I attended. There were students. So there was always one of the students assigned, like in med school, to take the notes. So it would be taped, and then almost verbatim, they would type those out. But I didn't really need those. If I was there and I sat and heard it, then I was fine. And I only needed a few words to strike the memory of what was told to me. So my notes were more cryptic, but I understood them. And I was accused, because I always sat in the back of the class, that they can't let Thayer sit in the front because anything the teacher would say would be immediately absorbed by his brain. So I made sure I always sat in the back. Plus I'd always probably joke around. I'm also ADHD, so it's hard for me to sit still. I'd be distracting at the front of the class.
Well, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
What would you like to share with parents that could be dyslexic or even that have dyslexic children to encourage them that they're not alone, and just to, God bless them for hanging in there and working with their kids, because a lot of those kids are falling behind really fast right now.
Right.
And they're realizing their kids have challenges they never knew their kids had.
I think it's real easy to think that when they're falling behind, that they can't do it. And it's not that they can't, it's just the method at which they're being taught is not right. I mean, the reality is, dyslexic, we use our cortex to think. Well, non-dyslexics use their cortex to think. You can process probably about 250 characters per minute. Dyslexics use the deeper part of their brain, and they can almost infinitely, do things. So if they learn to train themselves, they've got a computer for a brain. That's crazy. But so it's easy early on to think, well, geez. So my advice is to get them tested early. If you think that they're falling behind or they're just not learning right, then going to someone who knows how to test, and testing for multiple things, ADHD or just ADD, dyslexia, IQ, how much they comprehend, how much they memorize well, what their focus time is. All those things are important, because if you know if certain people can't have a difficult time learning things quickly, or they need to learn it quickly, you need to spread it out, stop it and spread it out, stop it, spread it out. So you'll know more about the way they learn. So it may just be the way they learn rather than them being deficient somehow.
And you mentioned so many different tests that that a psychologist would test for. I know I screen or assess for dyslexia, but not to the depth of a school psychologist. But I can assess for the 3 eligibility requirements: a high cognitive score, a low reading score, and a low phonological awareness score. And if parents can't get their schools to test their kids on a timely basis to get them the intervention now, then reach out to other educational therapists, reach out to me, because we can provide the assessments that give you the write-up that you can take to your school and show these are the eligibility requirements my child has. And the benefit of that is the school will pay for the tutoring, and it gets the child the tutoring right away. And the assessment also gives you that peace of mind to know that your child does have the dyslexia. And we really want to look at it as a trait of genius, and someone said, don't call it a superpower, because I never felt it was a superpower. I was always struggling with it. But it is a trait of genius that needs to be unlocked. And if kids have a low self-esteem, they're not tapping into that.
Right. And you're afraid to do things, which is not fair to them, because they can do them, but they're afraid because they may have failed at doing things that other kids that don't have this have been able to do. And it's not their fault, really. It's just their brain's wired a different way, and they need to learn a different way.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me see. I want to be sensitive to the time here. Thank you for calling us from back east. I know we have a little bit of a time change here. And I hope the audience was patient to bear with some of the technology challenges, but this has been very interesting. And I'm just, I'm very happy to know you, Tank. And I know your patients are very blessed to have you as their surgeon.
I'm blessed to have patients. So it's been a gift the whole way through my life. Hindsight's 2020, and looking back from the fact that I was adopted, an orphan, and I got to where I am today is just a miracle. So.
It really is. And it really is. And your parents, did they struggle with wondering how to help you, or were you pretty independent as a child?
I think I was pretty independent. They would get the report cards and they'd say, need to read. So you get sent home probably every quarter of the year with a book, one of those lists of books you can order. And so I'd order books and I'd read stuff. but
Uh-huh.
still really slowly. So they tried to help, but I don't think they just, they weren't teachers, so they didn't know what to do necessarily. So I got through things. I think part of that was probably sixth grade when three of us moved ahead in math. And then seventh grade when I tested in one of my math class, like 2 years into college math, that I realized personally, and my parents probably realized, this kid's okay. And he may not be able to read great, but holy moly, look at his math scores.
Isn't that something?
So that's kind of that was a big transition in my life of, no, I really am smart at something, which is math and science.
Right.
I love. So that it recorded more easily in my brain.
We talk about 35% of entrepreneurs in the United States are dyslexic. 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. And that the fields that they move into the best are engineering, architecture, the theater and the arts, and then entrepreneurism. And we always encourage them, if they have a desire to go to college, that getting that assessment to get those accommodations into college is really critical, because they can be, doctors and lawyers and surgeons, whatever they really have a cult, even teachers, things that need degrees.
Yeah.
So very happy.
I think that's one of the big things. Like when I've gone on medical mission trips and I go to an orphanage, I think the biggest thing I do, other than the lives I impact by operating on them, are the kids, the 60 kids that I kneel down in front of and say, look, I was an orphan like you, and look where I got. So I hope I bring the same hope to the folks looking at this now that may have what I have, to know you can do it.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much. And my guest today is Craig Thayer, and I'm going to put some information in the bottom here in the chat when I upload this YouTube, to find out how to order our reading curriculum. Now, we use music with our reading program, which is amazing because it affects that it's the neuroscience of the brain, how music accelerates reading for dyslexic children. And I look forward to you guys reaching out to us and subscribing if you haven't already to our YouTube channel, liking us, and please share this with someone else. And we thank you, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much. Bye.